So in today's video, I really wanted to discuss kind of new construction versus resales. Over the last 2 years, my business has really exploded in the new construction realm. And more people are gravitating towards more new construction, more of the new developments around the Jordanelle, around the Deer Valley East Village, around Deer Valley in general. And I kind of want to share with you some of my experience of what you should be doing if you are wanting to buy something that is new construction. And I'll tell you what, right up front, if you're a buyer who's kind of looking in this new construction realm and you're, versus a resale, right? What are the types of things that you need to know about buying new construction? And as somebody who has done a gazillion transactions over the last 2 years, almost with every single builder and developer around the Jordanelle and in the Wasatch Back, well, mostly Park City area, Hillwood Homes, Homes, Claim, Mayflower Lakeside, all of these places, they are all completely different contracts. You've got developers and you have builders, and they are a developer contract. They are a builder contract. So, number one, you need to realize they are not buyer friendly. They are builder friendly. Because if they did not cater to the builder at some degree, the builders would not be able to do what they're doing and we'd have new homes, no new homes. So, I think the first thing that really you need to be aware of is that builder product, developer product is not negotiable. Like the price is the price. So, when you go in and you're like, they're asking 2 million and you're like, we'll give you 1.8. And that development agent is like, yeah, no, that's not happening. And I had somebody that asked that, and I didn't want to burst their bubble. I didn't want to burst their bubble. So I said, well, let's go in and talk to the agent. And I knew exactly what she was going to say. No way, Jose, because it's not happening. It's not happening. Okay. If a builder is having a problem selling their product, they will lower the price, or they won't release as many phases. They'll hold off, or they will start offering you incentives. Hey, we'll pay for your transfer fees. Maybe we'll pay for some of your HOA fees, or actually, if you ask us to buy down your rate, we're willing to do that. So if builders or developers are having problems selling their properties, they will offer incentives. Now, something you need to be really aware of, every builder is different. Every contract is different. What they require of you in terms of earnest money, whether it's non-refundable, whether it's refundable, whether you have a review period or you don't, and you really need to do your due diligence ahead of time, or else you could find yourself in a real shit sandwich down the line. So what I mean by this is that I've had a lot of people. I mean, most of my transactions are cash. I usually do not have any problems with the new development because most people are cash. And I've had some really great clients in the past who have been very smart. They understand this. They had a property to sell before they could buy, and they were like, we're nervous. We know that going into this builder contract, like it's not contingent on us selling our property. So we really need to make sure that property sells, or we could be screwed and lose all our earnest money. And I think some people are kind of like, I don't know what's going in one ear and out the other, but if you have lots of properties to sell or multiple things to sell, and you're getting into these builder contracts, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if your money is not liquid. So my first tip would be, before you buy a house, I would say that you need to have some money liquid. Like money needs to be liquid. You need to be able to perform on what you're actually looking at. And sometimes that is a 10% deposit of the purchase price. Sometimes that is a 20% deposit. Sometimes that's only 10 grand, but then 14 days later, they want $200,000. So I think understanding that you need to have a good chunk of money liquid before you should be even remotely going and making an offer on a builder contract. So, I mean, if you have like an airplane hangar to sell and you have 10 houses you need to sell before you can actually perform on this contract, we are going to have a large problem. You really need to go and take care of those things first if you are planning on using the money from those sales to buy this. Now, if you're getting a loan, something to be really cautious about if you're getting a loan is that builders don't really care that you have to get a loan. There are some builders that are more price sensitive and understand, like, yes, we understand they need to get financing. And there are most of the developers in Deer Valley and in the resort town real estate where we're looking at prices that are, $2 million and up. There's no financing contingency. Zero. They do not care if you need a loan to buy this. So if you do need a loan, you need to make sure that you, in fact, are qualified to get a loan, that you're okay with what the interest rate is. Because I will tell you a horror story about somebody who brought a buyer to a townhome at Mayflower Lakeside. Well, the last time they bought a property was when interest rates were 3%. They went under contract on this townhome. Guess what? They don't qualify for a $2.5 million townhome now because interest rates are 7%. They qualify for 1.6. So I think you need to be blatantly aware as a buyer what you're going into, especially if you need to get a loan. Or, I mean, if you're cash, it's easy peasy. Cash buyers are the greatest. Cash is king. Like you generally have it in a brokerage account, it's somewhat liquid. But if all of your cash is tied up in property and planes and boats and other things that you need to sell, like you've got the assets there, but you don't have it liquid, we're going to have a major problem. Because one thing that happens in new construction contracts is they say, once you receive the notice of once you receive the notice of substantial completion, we require you to close in 7 days. We require you to close in 14 days. We require you to close in 4 days. So what happens when you kind of been twiddling your thumbs and you're like, oh, this thing isn't going to be finished for 2 years. So I've got time, right? Well, in 2 years, life can change. You could lose your job. The properties that you thought were going to sell might not sell. Now you're under contract, your earnest money's hard, your construction deposit's non-refundable, and you just got yourself into like a really risky situation. Like you can't perform. Also, I've been in situations where I've had people who pretended to be all cash and they were like, they had their the financial advisor provide a letter, right? We are qualified to buy this at this price. The funds are present. Great. This is supposed to be a cash deal. We go under contract. Well, lo and behold, they were never planning on using that money, that stash of money. They were planning on selling a bunch of things, a bunch of properties before and getting the cash out of that to pay for this purchase. They didn't plan on using that cash at all. Well, that's a big problem because the transaction was supposed to be cash and you didn't tell anybody that you needed to sell some stuff or you were planning on using the money from a different area. Oh, like we've got some things going on over here. We're going to get the money out of this. What happens when you're under contract on something, you're supposed to be all cash, and now it gets done 2 months early. And the property that you had to sell isn't finished yet because the property that you were planning on selling is also new construction, but instead of being finished early, it's actually running late. And so now you get hit with a notice of substantial completion. We need you to close in 4 days. And then you come back in 2 days before closing, say, I need to get a loan. Every single person that I have told this story to their jaw has literally dropped. Like, you have got to be joking me that happened to you. It happened to me. I almost had a heart attack. I thought for sure the builder was going to cancel. They were going to take my client's earnest money. They were going to take their construction deposits. Like this thing was going to blow up. It did not blow up, thankfully, and it closed like a month later. But it was probably one of the scariest transactions I've ever been in, just because I had a client that wasn't upfront with me about their finances and how they actually intended on buying something. So I'm always really like particular with people, and hey, how's the loan going? Like, is your loan okay? Is it looking good? Because guess what? Like, if you go under contract on something that's new construction and you need a loan, there's no F&A deadline. And so the time frame might be like, yeah, we'll be done in 12 months. Maybe it'll be 2 years. What is that time frame for being done? You really need to stay in touch with that lender during that whole period of time. You need to be watching the interest rates. When should they actually start the loan process? Because 14 days before notice of substantial completion, or 7 days or 4 days, whatever it is on that contract, is not enough time for you to now go, oh no, like I got to get my loan written. Like, what have I been doing this whole time? Like living my life for the last 2 years. And now all of a sudden a notice of substantial completion comes. You need to get a loan. It's not written. So these are things that you can run into if you are not like, if you don't have your ducks in a row. And again, like every buyer contract is different. I have been going down to Jordanelle Ridge a lot because literally everyone on the face of the planet is sending me the I have no idea if I'm saying this right. The Pewty Homes listing that's like it's like $700,000. So and like Toll Brothers listings that are like 800K, and I'm like, do you realize that this is like a first time home buyer community? And there's nothing wrong with that, but like you're not a first time home buyer. This is like a second home vacation home. You just don't want to spend the $4 million that it actually requires to be in Park City. So you're looking on the outskirts, hoping that, yeah, like I can buy something for 800K. Let me tell you right now, Toll Brothers has non-refundable earnest money. It's 5% non-refundable earnest money. And Puty or Pluty or however you say it is $20,000 non-refundable earnest money. So completely different process down there. So you really need to have your due diligence in order and your finances in order. And you need to make sure that you can perform before you're writing offers, submitting offers, going under contract. Like there is nothing like if you have multiple properties to sell, your first priority should be selling those properties, not looking at new stuff yet. Like you need to get those properties under contract. You need to get them past due diligence. You need to get them super close to the closing deadline where you feel comfortable like, yes, this buyer's in it. They're not going to walk away at the closing table, forfeit their earnest money, and you're going to have to start from square one again. Believe it or not, people have done that. I have never I've probably had the busiest first quarter I've had ever in my life. I don't know where all these buyers are coming out of the woodworks. Everybody wants to buy. I think I put like six things under contract, and I've had two people cancel. One canceled because we had a problem with the loan. We had a problem with the loan. So now let's go buying. So new construction, now you kind of know what to watch out for, what to look out for, right? You've got to have something liquid. You've got to have money liquid to be able to do the earnest money and to be able to do the construction deposits. And then sometimes you might not have to pay for 2 years. It might be 12 months. It might be 14 months. The next deposit might be 100 days. It might be 120 days. It just depends on how long the project takes to get built, or if it's a one off single family home from like a production builder, like Toll Brothers or Homes or Garbett Homes. And even like some of the other builders around the Jordanelle, like Garbett has the Point, they are $15,000 non-refundable earnest money. So you really need to do your due diligence before you buy in that community. So if you have properties to sell or you're planning on getting the money from somewhere else, you really need to get the money first and then start looking for a house. And you'd think that this would be common sense, but I'm making a video about it. So clearly I've had some issues with people doing this. And I just think you're crazy. I'm like, you're crazy. What are you doing? Like, and I had a conversation with one of my lender partners, and I was just like, I don't understand sometimes the Park City buyer. Um, this is like a massively risky and legal contract. And this is a huge luxury market. Like, what are people thinking? And she said, I know it's crazy. The Park City buyer, like she said, half of my clients, I don't even meet them until they put something under contract. And then it's like, oh shit, we need to get pre-approved. We need to get this going. We need to get the loan process going. There are so many things that can go wrong when you're getting a loan: appraisals, credit scores, you not giving the documentation to the lender that they need right away. Once you're under contract, that lender is under a crunch time to perform for that F&A deadline. And if you take your sweet old time getting your stuff to that lender, there's going to be massive problems down the line because they need to get a loan written by a certain date. And most of the time, I like to think that people are smart enough not to put an offer in on something that they can't perform on or that they're not qualified to buy. But then you have the situation that happened with a townhome at Mayflower Lakeside where I was not representing the buyer. It was something that I heard about. You know, like the last time they got a loan was when rates were 3% and now they're 7. And so they can afford half of what they thought they could afford. I mean, that's just like mind blowing to me. Some stuff that's also happening, like what happens when you're in a multiple offer situation and you're a buyer that now all of a sudden falls in love with a house that has multiple offers on it, but you're not ready to buy because you didn't get pre-approved. I just can't reiterate how important it is, like to first be pre-approved, pre-qualified, pre-something, or, I'm cash, Nicole. Usually when people are cash, I'm like, we're good, right? We are good. But when you're getting a loan, there's so many things that can go wrong. And me not knowing what you can afford is terrifying. I'm just, I feel like I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall. Like, I have no idea if they can afford this. I really hope they can perform. I really hope that nothing goes wrong with the loan and the transaction. You never know what you don't know. And there are so many different variables in a real estate transaction. Put your best foot forward when you're buying a house, whatever agent you're talking to, right? When you submit an offer, I cannot believe the amount of buyers that don't want to put their best foot forward when they submit an offer. I had a personal experience. I was representing the sellers, and these buyers were jerks. They were not nice. They were incredibly difficult to work with, and they made the transaction a living hell. And my clients were definitely over them by the end of this transaction. The I'll never forget when they wrote the offer, I said, can I please see a proof of funds letter? Like, it's in the MLS. Please do not submit an offer without a pre-approval letter or proof of funds. And most agents will have this in the MLS and require that when you submit an offer, right? If you're cash, it's a no-brainer. Like, can you please submit a proof of funds? And they said, no. If you accept our offer, then we'll give you a proof of funds. Talk about a massive attitude. Like, do we really want to accept this and have you be our buyers? Yeah, because we want to sell the house, right? More and more sellers agents have been going to lenders, and usually it's buyers agents going to the lender. Like, I just got a buyer. I need to get them qualified. What are they qualified for? What am I allowed to show them? Obviously, like, you have a specific budget that you want to stay in, and maybe you're qualified for 4 million, but you only want to buy something for 2 million. I'm not going to make you buy something for 4 million, but it would be nice to know that you actually qualify for 4 million, or is this qualification letter based off of 3 homes that you have to sell? So there's a lot of things and moving parts in a real estate transaction that I need to be aware of, the lender needs to be aware of, the title company needs to be aware of, the seller's agent needs to be aware of, because we all talk to each other, right? The lender and the title company and like, we all talk to each other. When you go under contract, I have to submit to your lender the contract. They need to know the contract. That is like the first person you have to give the contract to, and the title company, right? Title and lenders need to communicate at closing. It's really important, all the communication that goes on behind the scenes that people just don't have a clue what we do, I think. And that brings me to another point. Like, in my buyer broker contract, like, there is a section that says you will provide your buyer's agent with a proof of funds letter or financials that they know what you can afford. Like, I don't understand why you would want to see houses and not have your agent know how qualified you are, right? It it's confidential. Nobody knows but me, but or whoever you're working with. Nobody knows, but we need to know. We need to know what you can buy. So we need to know what we can be able to show you.